Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Durani. I'm currently the engineering manager here at Collins Aerospace, located in Monroe off Airport Road. I'm also actually the interim facilities manager as well as the ACE, or something known as continuous improvement slash like lean manufacturing. Basically, in other words, like the innovation manager until we get those backfilled. So Amy reached out to me and asked, "Hey, we're doing a slate of these kind of videos, looking into background and giving people more insight into how has people ascended into their careers or where they are, where they started, what was the kind of decisions they made, and the kind of educational background that kind of helped them get to where they are." So more of a formal academic background. I have an undergrad, a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. I double majored in political science. I got my MBA. I got my master's in nuclear engineering, and I also got a third master's in international affairs, political economy. So first, I'll say, what did I really was out when I was in college? What was I aiming for? Engineering. The way I got started in engineering was very interesting. My grandfather was an engineer. I have an uncle who's an engineer. My dad actually went back later to school and got his degree in computer science engineering. And so it was kind of out there and always discussed within the family. So I could say it was kind of predestined. But once I got into it, it was very interesting because, it was a challenge. And I think that's one thing about my personality that really ties into all this, is I've come to realize is that chapter of my life with respect to college, I came to understand is, I'm a little more of who I am. And engineering does that to you, right? It really pushes you to the limit from an academic standpoint. While nothing is impossible or hard, it just stretches you and makes you understand your limitations, which is really helpful because when you get into the real world, that kind of development in your training, your train of thought, that kind of logical acumen, and mainly the problem-solving capabilities of engineering really get you there. Now, you also heard, I have an MBA as well as some other liberal arts degree, mainly within the realm of political science. I love history and politics. Don't want to be a politician, but I love analyzing political situations, how that ties in with history, etc. Ever since I was a kid. So that was more of my pastime when I was in college. I always took a class or two during the regular semester while cramming engineering courses to be my kind of free or fun class. And I would stack up on the classes during summer to ensure I could finish off my degree within both degrees in 4 years. Both have helped develop me to become who I am. Obviously, one side of the brain is more focused on the engineering and mathematics, science portion, or the liberal arts, has really focused on the creativity and more writing, analytical, and qualitative, right? Whereas engineering is more quantitative, precise, black and white. Political science is not so much. The MBA was more of a credential pursuit. As I was coming up the ranks in work, I became even more interested on the business side of things. So while I was working, I pursued, my different graduate degrees. And so even though I started as a mechanical engineer, my first internship took me into my first real job, which was in the nuclear world. I was within the mechanical engineering department, but, there's nuclear project has multiple aspects, not purely nuclear engineering. Obviously, you have the different disciplines of engineering as well as other non-engineering related items. So it allows for different disciplines to partake. And it was here where I really fell in love with nuclear engineering. This whole concept of, nothing physical like what I was used to with mechanical engineering or even electrical engineering. You're working in the subatomic, right? Something that's smaller than atoms. You're working in basically these small particles that create real big impacts. And this, again, being a student in history and reading the old histories of how in the Middle Ages, you had people in Europe, the Middle East, trying to search for the holy grail of chemistry, or known as alchemy, turning lead into gold. And here was a field of science that could actually do that. If you bomb an item from lead with enough neutrons, you could change the atomic makeup of it and turn into gold. Obviously, at the current state we are in technology globally, it isn't financially feasible to do that. Basically, the amount of gold you'll create from the amount of lead you bombard with neutrons will be basically a fraction of the cost it takes to do that. But the fact that you could actually do that, and by basically changing the atomic makeup, just made me fall in love with the idea. And then there was this idea of unlimited energy. And so looking again, complementing that engineering degree with history and politics, how the quest for mankind has always been power. And power, I mean electricity in this sense, right? So the way civilization, the foundation of any civilization that is first, is ensuring you have infrastructure and power. Those are the two critical items that allow anything to then flourish from there from. And so here was a technology that we had created in the World War II and really in the post-World War II that allowed for unlimited harnessing of energy globally. Obviously, there was the whole waste issue that never really got resolved because due to cheaper energy alternatives such as oil. But you had certain countries like France that took the lead and you could recycle 99.9% of all the waste. And so I ended up in the nuclear world for a good several years. And then when Fukushima happened, I had to kind of recalculate. There's the job security aspect, and as well as I wanted to take my skills elsewhere. And this is where I kind of got incentivized to go into oil and gas. So I went from being an engineer into a technical consultant, which is an engineer with also a business hat. So not only would we work with customers, global customers in the oil and gas field, I worked for a Norwegian consultant firm out of Houston, Texas. But we also, worked with all the major players, BP, Shell, Texaco, etc., Chevron, all these people you heard, as well as some other international firms or state firms for other countries, such as the Venezuelans, Nigerians, etc. And so here was a very great challenge. So I had immersed myself in nuclear, my graduate degree is in nuclear, and can I make that transition? And I did. And it basically, one thing I learned, and what really came away from engineering was, while in engineering you learn certain fundamentals, the majority of things you learn in school in general, you probably heard of it, you don't retain. That's just the reality of it. But what engineering taught me that no other discipline could have was the problem solving skills. Like I said in the beginning, problem solving and thinking logically, and how you could work around basically obstacles and get to the end of it and resolve the issue successfully in the most optimized form. And so this really lent itself really well on the business side for me, and it complemented. So when I became a consultant, not only was I doing technical analysis, but also business, and especially on a global customer level, it took me to the next level. And so I learned that the greatest thing I learned was I learned how to learn. And what I mean by that is I knew how to ask questions and how to research properly to jump into any role and be decent and successful. And so, oil and gas was a fun run. And, there was familial reasons, but I moved to North Carolina. My parents lived out here, and due to those reasons, and I decided to come out to stay closer to them. And I entered the aerospace, and here was another shift in my career to a different industry. Even though nuclear and oil and gas was different, they're still within this energy industry. I came to aerospace, and it was interesting. A whole different thing. It was manufacturing. Very hands-on, and you had to be basically a jack of all trades. And here I picked up other skills, technical, hard skills, as well as soft skills. I didn't work purely with engineers. I worked with technicians, people who had no degrees. I worked with non-technical people, non-engineering degree people, and you learn how to deal with them. And they were no longer a customer where I was used to working with a customer in a certain way. Here's people on your own team, but they're not engineers. Go figure it out. And here, more than ever, I noticed the power of being an engineer. And so after 11 months, I was fortunate enough to be promoted to the engineering manager for the site. And I've been so for the last 3 years, a little more. But within that time, because of being the engineering manager, I've been popped into other roles. Operations manager in parallel, supply chain for a short term. And since the beginning of the year, I've been the facilities manager. We got that finally filled, so I'll be letting go of that hat. As well as a couple of months ago, I was tapped in to be the continuous improvement, or again, like I said, lean manager. Those two managers had left, and I'm currently filling that. So I'm doing 3 managerial roles. And again, because of my position as an engineering manager, it allows me to understand the entire gamut that goes within the value stream or the flow of how products move, and I can lend my experience there. With respect to being in the industry and where I see it going, I really do think COVID has put a hold on anything globally. But hopefully shortly this year we'll get over this hump. We'll get a vaccine in place. We'll become in a better state as a country and as a global situation as well. I think aerospace is going to a whole new frontier. There's really major players. Collins, through several mergers, have become one of the largest, companies. But we're also seeing the creeping up of other firms, which I'm really excited about. You have your Elon Musk entering this industry, as well as there's rumblings of Bezos, with his Amazon supply chain logistics capability and his outfit in Seattle that's looking into aerospace. I think the competition will make it really awesome, and we'll see new frontiers in space as well as domestic private travel and design. So again, going back to engineering, that following a STEM affiliated degree is really the solution, because not only will you learn fundamental skills that you could apply if you desire to be within those fields, but you build a certain skill set that can be translated into any other field and you'll be really successful. So if you have any questions or anything, please reach out to Amy to put you in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to correspond via email, phone call, whatever it works to help guide anyone. Thank you very much for your time and have a great day.